So what happens if our economy and the U.S. dollar are no longer the world's dominant currency? Former Assistant Treasury Secretary and host of the Monica Crowley podcast, Monica Crowley, is here to weigh in. Monica, great to see you this morning. Let's start right there. What happens if these emerging economies move away from the U.S. dollar towards the Chinese yuan?
Ready for it? Click number 2. Listen to this now. Because what she is going to tell us is actually happening right now. All right, listen to this.
Well, good morning, Will. It's great to be with you. And it's really hard to overstate exactly how catastrophic the abandonment of the U.S. dollar would be as the world's global reserve currency. Look, since the end of World War II, the dollar has been the safe place to go, and it's been backed up by a couple of things. It originally was backed up by gold, but President Nixon took us off the gold standard, so there's no hard asset backing up the dollar anymore for the last 50 years. But also it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars.
You see it? Oil has always been traded in U.S. dollar. Watch this now. Friends, you haven't seen anything or heard anything yet. Listen.
Also, it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars. If that were to end, that would mean the end of the U.S. dollar. Look, there is a perfect storm happening right now, Will.
If that were to end, nations stop buying and selling using U.S. currency. Nations dumping U.S. dollars, no longer buying and selling oil in U.S. currency. That would bring the end of the U.S. dollar. Is that happening right now? That's the question. Stay tuned. Continue.
And all it would take at this point now, because we're at this pivotal moment, Will, is for Saudi Arabia, who hasn't...
For who? Saudi Arabia. Don't forget that. Continue.
And all it would take at this point now, because we're at this pivotal moment, Will, is for Saudi Arabia, who has indicated that they're open to this, to say, you know what, we're going to be open to considering other currencies to trade in oil. If that were to happen, there would be a complete implosion of the global economic system, but certainly the American economic system. And if that were to happen, you'd be looking at sky-high inflation, just raging Weimar Republic kind of inflation. If you think inflation is bad now, just wait.
Just wait. So since this coming, oh, friend, you know what? No more insertions. Watch this now. What's happening in Kenya? What's happening in Kenya? Saudi Arabia. Are they dumping U.S. dollars as they buy and sell, especially oil? Watch this. Listen.
President William Ruto has put on notice traders holding the U.S. dollar, saying the agreement between Kenya and the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia will eliminate the demand for $500 million every month from the Kenyan market.
Did you hear that, my friends? Okay, clip 2. Continue.
2 weeks ago, Kenya signed a government-to-government deal with the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia for the supply of petroleum products with a 6-month credit period. The deal is expected to start next month, easing the demand for $500 million every month that Kenya uses to purchase petroleum products.
I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks.
If you're holding dollars, trading in dollars, dump the U.S. dollar. Continue.
Pressure on the Kenya shilling.
Our fuel companies will now be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings.
Did you hear that? What will they be using to purchase oil and fuel?
pressure on the Kenya shilling.
Our fuel companies will now be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings. They do not have to look for dollars every month. And secondly,
And when would they do this? When would they start this? In a few weeks. Friend, my point here is, you know what? Let me save that. Let me continue here. Listen. How would this impact us in America? Anybody here from Kenya? Live with us? Watch this. Listen.
But more importantly, we would lose our economic dominance and we would lose our superpower status.
Monica, the world's reserve currency, you said it's a privilege for the United States for the dollar to have been the world's currency. How does that relate to each individual American? How has that changed or impacted or improved our lives throughout the last several decades?
Do you want to hear the answer?
Yeah, I mean, it's given the United States incredible dominance in the world in terms of the economic system and in terms of trade. It's kept prices down. So whether it's energy prices, whether it's your food prices, the entire global economic system is reliant on the safe and secure dollar. But that is no longer true, again, because we've been printing money like crazy and devalued the power of the dollar and the value of the dollar. But on top of it now, again, oil is the critical linchpin of this. If Saudi Arabia decides to join with America's enemies here and start trading oil in different currencies, that is going to undermine the entire global economic system. And here at home, you know what it's going to mean for us? It's going to mean raging inflation, so much worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will. And I'll tell you.
Oh, my friends, do you see that? Did you hear that, friends? The signs are here, a perfect storm. How would that affect us negatively? Let's continue. Do you have extra oil in vessels somewhere? Listen, continue.
Worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will. And I'll tell you, they're setting it up so that they can then come to the rescue by introducing central bank digital currencies.
Stop. Oh, my friends. It's the Hegelian dialectic, create the crisis. And you know, the Fed chairman already said, Jerome Powell said, if we want to remain dominant, the superpower in the world, we need a digital currency. And he mentioned the Fed Now payment system, which is baby steps to their own CBDC. Same thing, but different packaging. Same system, but different names. Dump the US dollar, create the crisis. And how will America respond? But in that intermediary time period, how are we going to be affected? Raging inflation, energy prices, food prices, housing, everything you can think of. It's all connected to oil. Continue. Release that.
Worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will. And I'll tell you, they're setting it up so that they can then come to the rescue by introducing central bank digital currencies. If they were to do that, and the United States already has a pilot program, that means the loss of your individual economic freedom, because the government will have total access and control of everything you buy and sell, and the ability to turn it off like that.
And the ability to turn it off like that. Just like that. Look at this. Watch carefully.
Ominous warning. I hear you. Saudi Arabia is the tipping point. Oil trading in dollars is the tipping point.
What? Now, he's summarizing the interview. What is the tipping point? It's teetering on the precipice.
Ominous warning. I hear you. Saudi Arabia is the tipping point. Oil trading in dollars is the tipping point. And obvious huge consequences for our economy. Monica Crowley, thank you so much.
With the flick of a switch, they can leave you without a penny in a digital-only economy. How close are we, my friends? I'm telling you, I smell something